So we've had a look at the torso, and hopefully you're at a stage now where you're happy to move on. I'm not saying that she has to be complete, because you can always come back later, add in more detail, add another subdivision, work on her a little bit more, as you can with every other element of her. That's the beauty of this sculpting approach, is it's constantly evolving. You may have worked on the torso. In a couple of days, you may come back to it and think, oh, actually, I can add more detail here. This bit looks a little bit wrong. But then you've got all the tools to quickly edit it and change it. So rather than me just keep rambling on, we've worked on the torso. So let's now move down and have a look at just adding in some basic detail to her legs. So I'm just going to isolate that. Again, I've set up the radial menu just as we did before when we added in the button toggle. I've added in a isolate selected and a show all. What I really should do is add a hide selected button down here. Actually, I'll do that now just to refresh your memory. So up here we have display, hide selected, hide selection is just H. So what I can do is open up the Wacom tools if they pop up. Where are they? Here we go. Functions, silo, radial menu. So down here, we're going to change that to hide selection. And the keystroke is simply, let's clear that. Keystroke is simply H. Okay, let's close that down. So let's just quickly test that. Hide selection, show all, isolate selection. So there we go. Really quickly to do. As you're working, you may find other tools that you need to work on and that you need to help as you work. So you can just quickly add them just like that. So right, enough of that. So onto the leg. And again, if you're not sure, grab some reference online and just have a look. But we're just going to throw ourselves in and just see how things look. So again, paint displacement, we're just going to use a push tool. I think we've only added one subdivision, so we probably won't see much of a difference here. We're just going to try and sculpt in the muscle around here. So nothing's happening yet, so let's just add another subdivision. Just see if we can see anything happening. We can just make out something, but it's maybe not enough. So let's go a bit wild and add in one more subdivision, and then we should start to see things happening. So there we can just make out. There we can just start sculpting there, and we're just being quite bold with our brush strokes. We can just sculpt in this area here. It may look quite subtle, so let's just increase our strength. Smaller brush, just to enhance this around here a little bit more. We come down to our kneecap. Again, the brush is probably a bit too big here, so we're just going to make that a little bit smaller. Remember, we're not concerned with her looking like some sort of hideous creature at this stage. We're just blocking in all those main masses of muscle, those main areas, just so we can see how things are looking, just so we know that they're in sort of roughly the right areas. Again, she's a stylized character. She's a sculpture, so you know she doesn't have to be perfect, does she? You know, it's your piece of artwork. So long as you're happy with it and it represents what you're trying to show, then it doesn't have to be exact. When Picasso was creating his works of art, I don't think he particularly worried about everything being anatomically correct. He just wanted to express himself doing what he loved. And that's all we're doing here. As long as it represents a human character, yeah, this muscle here might not be in the right exact precise area, but it doesn't matter as long as it looks okay and it gets across, you know, the style of the artist. You may want it to be more precise, more exact, in which case, get your reference out, make sure each brush stroke counts. As you can see here, we just compare it to this leg, which is quite flat. We've got this leg here, which has got a lot more definition. And then we can just go in and soften the edges. So those muscles are a bit more subtle. And all that will happen is the lighting in the scene will just catch these subtle creases, just give hints at the muscles that are there. And these sort of areas at the back of the leg, where these tendons are. So I'm just going to go to my sharp push brush, and we want a bit more of a recess in here. Like so. Again, we'll just go to smooth and just soften the edges gently. If we want these tendons here to be a bit sharper, we could always go in, use our pinch tool, and you can see that's just pulling those in together, just adding a bit more definition into that area. So let's go back down to the knee, just soften this a little bit as well. You'll find it's just a case of blocking in, softening, blocking in a little bit more, softening, refining, blocking in and softening, till you get the shape that you want. So we want a bit more definition on the side of the leg here, sort of around the calf area. So again, we can maybe use the move tool. Let's turn on the radius. I think we had this problem before, so let's turn that on and off a little bit. That's still too small. That's still too small. What's going on? Let's make it smaller. Make it bigger. Okay, let's leave that. Let's just go back to the old push tool. Turn up our strength. We can just block it in like so. So I think what we'll do on this video is I'll just concentrate on one leg, and then I'll leave you to work on the next leg. Right, turn up our strength there just to get more definition on the calf around here. And then obviously go in and just soften that down a little bit. Maybe use a smooth tool just so it's not as intense. That's just added that little bit more definition into there. Now it's probably not. Maybe soften it a little bit more. And again, we need to come up and address the kneecap. So a little bit more. Something like that. Just enhance the muscle above the knee slightly there. Again, we'll just go in and soften this. So as you can see, we're just getting the hints of the kneecap in there. Well, there's more we can do on that, but I'm not going to linger there for much longer. We're just going to move down, work on the foot a little bit. So we obviously need our ankles. These weren't built into the main geometry, but it's nice just to have them in there, just to show that. And then obviously we need the tendons at the back of the foot. So again, we can just push this area in, which will just allow us to enhance that a little too. Maybe just add a little recess around the ankle there. Oop. And again, just go in with a smooth brush, just soften this gently, just to get rid of those angular edges, but retain the sort of hints of the surface detail, just like that. So there we've just added in that basic detail. It didn't take too long at all to do. You can go in and just refine that a little bit more, work on the shape a little bit more too. Obviously these toes are looking a little bit odd, the shape of those, so we can also go in and just start to block those out a little bit more too. Maybe add in a bit more of a knuckle, turn down that strength, you know, something like that. Just use a smooth brush just to soften that back down a little bit. Maybe even just soften this toenail. And obviously we have the tendons running up from the toes up the front of the foot. So we can just rough those in as well, just like so. Then use a smooth brush, soften those back down. Just so we're getting the hint that they're there. So as you rotate around the model, as you can see, we can make them out there. So we're just adding in that extra bit of detail. And again, we can do the same under the bottom of the foot. The shape of this is looking a little odd, so we can just soften this out. Use a push brush just to enhance some of these masses underneath here. And again, it goes back to what is going to be seen. If this foot is on the floor and there's something there, there's no point spending loads of time enhancing this area because it's just not going to be seen. So just work on what needs to have work done on it. Just smooth that out. So as you can see there, the difference between these two legs, and we've spent what, 10 minutes just roughing out these muscles, just adding in these basic details. I mean, obviously I could see there's areas that need a little bit more work, but you get the general idea. This leg looks a bit flat and boring, and this one has just got a little bit more detail added in. Just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. So now you've seen me just quickly roughing out this leg. Why don't you focus on the other leg? Just continue working as you have been. Add a little bit more detail into the feet. Or if you want to, just skip to the next video where we'll start to look at the clothing, and you can always come back to the legs later. It's entirely up to you. But for now, I'm just going to continue on with these legs, and I will see you in the next video.